I don't even want you to win. I want you to build your failure resume. I've had 6 failed businesses. I've had 9 failed partnerships. But the crazy thing about how success works is that you only need to win once.
Well, this is a very simplified advice, and if you follow it word for word, it can completely destroy you. I know this because I've lived through it. I've had a couple of successes and a lot of failures. I've lost everything twice. I'm speaking from personal experience. This advice is borderline dangerous. The only reason I got out of that cycle in one piece is because I started using a specific system. In this video, I'll show you how to adjust that build your failure resume mindset in 3 steps so you can actually win without burning yourself to the ground in the process. First, we need to understand something. That advice is true at its core, but it becomes very dangerous the moment you take it literally. Because life isn't that simple. There are many complexity layers to it, real constraints, and I'm not even talking about psychological ones yet, like identity or belief systems. I'm talking about objective reality. For example, you might have a family. That alone changes everything. It limits how far you can push failure after failure. And it should, because you're not just risking money, you're also trading away time with people you'll never get back. Because at the end of your life, that time and those relationships is what you'll actually care about. Another thing people don't talk about, you don't know when that one win will come. It might not be attempt 5 or 9 or even 10. It could be attempt 12 or 17, which means you have to consider the possibility that you will be in the failing phase for a very long time, 10, maybe 20 years. That's a very different game than what's being implied. And then there's the idea of the big win. Most people imagine something massive, life changing, you know, an exit that solves everything. But in reality, that's very rare. Big outcomes usually depend on a very rare mix of things like, market size, timing, product market fit, luck definitely. And more often than not, what you get isn't a massive breakout. It's something in between, a solid financial result, but not something that turns into 1 million and you're done. So instead of one big escape, you are forced to stay in the game. At this point, it should be very clear why just power through failures isn't really a strategy for most people. I'm not saying that the idea is wrong. I'm saying that when you oversimplify something this complex, it becomes harmful, not helpful. The good news is that you can still go after it, but you need to approach it differently. So here are 3 steps that make this idea actually workable. First, audit what you're actually willing to lose. That original advice works only if you truly have nothing to lose. But that's not most people. Most people have quite a lot on the line. Your time, your health, relationships, your stability, and entrepreneurship will affect all of those. So the real question is, what's the price you're actually willing to pay? What are you actually willing to sacrifice? And to what extent? Once you're clear on that, you move on to step 2, adjusting expectations. If you have a lot to lose, your focus should shift. It's no longer just about the financial upside, it's about managing risk as well. So you don't have to damage the parts of your life that matter most. That includes how much time, money, energy you're actually willing to invest. And naturally, that changes what kind of outcome is realistically achievable. Building a business that makes 100K a year is very different from building one that makes a million. And going from 1 million to, say, 100 million is a completely different level again. The higher the target, the more it demands from you. Don't get me wrong, 100K still requires a lot of effort and sacrifice, but it's manageable. Going for 1 million and beyond, that starts affecting your entire life. So if you determine that, for example, family, health, and stability come first, but at the same time expect to make millions, you are delusional. That won't happen. Now, step 3, managing identity fusion. Identity fusion is a simple but extremely important concept. It's when your self-worth gets tied to how your business is doing. When things go well, you feel great. When things go badly, and they will, you feel like you're the problem. In the context of this video, this shows up in two ways. First, let's say you've already had some success. You've built something, you have become somebody. Maybe you've made money, you've proven to yourself that you can do it. And then you start something new. What a lot of people do, without even realizing it, is that they carry that identity with them. They expect things to work out again, more or less the same way. But it's not how it plays out. You're back at zero. Nobody really cares about what you've done before. You still get rejected and ignored, sometimes even ridiculed, just like in the very beginning. To handle that, you have to be willing to go back to being a beginner again, to not know what you're doing, to make mistakes, to learn as you go, and most importantly, to let go of that sense of entitlement, because it will feel like you're putting your reputation on the line. Someone like Elon Musk has done this very well, but most people don't. Second, maybe you're in a rough phase. Things just aren't working. And it's very easy to let that bleed into how you see yourself. You go from this isn't working to maybe I'm not just cut out for this. Most of us have been there at some point. I definitely have. But the moment you start tying your identity to that, you're limiting yourself. Your energy drops, you stop pushing the same way, your ambition shrinks. And even if you do recover from the failure, and many don't, it takes a long time to get back on the saddle and try again. And time actually matters here. Because if your one big win comes on attempt 15 or 17, every year you spend stuck in that state, depressed, fearful, it makes it much less likely you'll ever get there. So yes, this idea of failing your way to success, it can work, but only if we approach it properly. And out of these three steps we covered, the first one matters the most. Being clear on what you're actually willing to lose. If you want to go deeper into that, watch this next.